117 models is a lot of work, but I have 15 hobby tips that I'm going to give you along the way that can hopefully speed up the process and make it a little bit more enjoyable for you. The first and most important tip that we're going to start off with before we get anywhere into this video is that you can do this. There are goals that sometimes seem completely unachievable, and you can achieve them, and I'm going to show you. So here we have a little chunk of the Necrons that I've accumulated over the past few years. Some of these are 3D prints that I've picked up from a buddy, some of them are models I picked up secondhand, and some of them are leftover Indomitus Necrons and other various units. But as you can see, some of them are painted, some of them are what you could call finished, some of them have new pieces glued onto them, but that's all okay. We're not going to strip anything, we're just going to reprime with the airbrush and see where we can go from there. Alright, tip number 1, a clean and decent sized hobby space. Now whether this is a desk or you're a little spoiled like me and you have a whole hobby room, just get a good cleared off area, have just the tools and things that you need to get the job done. No extra clutter, just stay focused on the goal. The models we'll be painting up today will be Illuminor Caesares, or however you say it, Proxy Overlord with Resurrection Orb, Trazen the Infinite, Proxy as well, 3D prints that a buddy of mine gave me, 5 Lichguard of the same, 5 Destroyers, minus 1 of these because I can't count, a Canoptic Reanimator, a Locust Heavy Destroyer, 1 Doomstalker, and 100 Necron Warriors. Alright, so what I've thought to be kind of the easier way to attack projects like this is to bring up everybody together. And some of these models aren't yet based, so I went and got that done quickly. And then we teed up the airbrush. Now, that's hobby tip number 2. Oh yes, the scary airbrush. Now I know what you're thinking. If you don't have an airbrush, you're probably thinking, I don't have an airbrush, or I don't want an airbrush. And that's fine. But the simple fact is that an airbrush will speed up the painting process exponentially and allow you to do techniques that by hand would normally take a lot longer of a time. Alternatively, use the largest brush possible wherever you can. Alright, next we're going to add a little bit of texture to these and we're going to throw in some Typhus Corrosion. And I went a little careless with some of them, and for some of them I really didn't use a whole lot, just to kind of add variety to it. Alright, first up, base coating. We're going to use Vallejo Metal Color Steel, and we're going to dry brush this on to 117 models. Next up, we're going to overbrush with Pale Burnt Metal from Vallejo Metal Color, and we're going to do this on just the kind of top portions of the models. We're going to focus it on the very top and then dragging our brush downward to kind of create a natural highlight between the two tones of metal. I can never really find a gold that I like, so we're going to take a Sandra Yellow and we're going to shade different parts of the metal, and we're going to create kind of our gold areas. Now, Necrons don't typically have like a commander in a unit of troops, but mine are gonna. And those are going to be distinguished between the cloaked ones that are 3D printed proxies that I have. So I'm going through and using Pro Acrylics Khaki, and I'm just hitting those cloaks up with a base coat. Then I'm going to come in with the contrast paint Snakebite Leather, and I'm just going to hit those kind of top little portions of it just to kind of give it a little bit of variety. Whether it's speed paints or contrast paints or inks and shades, the next hobby tip, number 3, cheat. Use techniques that will get you the same effect quicker than it would normally take you to do it a longer way. Now, whether it's by brush or with proper ventilation in an airbrush, we're going to throw some streaking grime in the airbrush, and I'm going to hose down all these models, and we're going to do a little addition by subtraction. For anyone unfamiliar with the streaking grime products from AK Interactive, the next step here is we're taking odorless mineral spirits, and we're removing the streaking grime layer, and we're depositing it inside of the recesses and kind of dragging our brush downward to kind of bring all of those darker tones towards the bottom of the model. And that's what leads us into tip number 4, which is actually oil paints and enamel paints. They're not a common product used by the kind of average hobby painter or, Warhammer painter or something. But they are a great product. It's, a cool way to kind of, get your recessed areas looking really decent without, having to worry about coffee staining or kind of the other, pitfalls of using an acrylic wash. Now, I split this up into 2 chunks for sake of ease because this product, you definitely want to make sure that you get it off in a decent amount of time. If at the very least you want to keep it at a uniform amount of time throughout your army or your unit or whatever have you, because the time that it does dry will widely change the effect. Now we're here at just about the 8-hour mark, and we just got all that streaking grime off, and these are looking great. I love them already. I think the gold looks really good. I do go back and touch up them way after the fact with some more Cassandra Yellow, just to kind of reestablish that gold tinge, and it really punched them up and it made them look really good. All right, next we're going to come in with Vallejo Metal Color Aluminium, and we're going to grab a small sponge, and I'm just kind of dabbing this on the most northern part of the model, making sure that, to not do it in any of the darker areas, and just to kind of add a little bit more variety to that metal one last time. All right, tip number 6, batch painting. Some people might think that 117 models is kind of a pretty big leap as far as batch paints go, and you would be completely correct. But batch painting is one of the fastest ways to get a lot of models done quickly. I know that it can kind of be intimidating, moving 20 models around your desk at a time until all the steps are done. But trust me, it is one of the easier ways to do it, because if I had to bring one of these models up to, completed and then start over completely with another model, this would never get done near as fast as I was hoping it to intend to. I wasn't quite getting the effect I wanted with adding these weathering deposits. And so I actually grab Vallejo Game Air's Orange Fire and water it down about 3 or 4 to 1. And I ended up squashing that all over the models in the recessed areas, just to add that little bit of extra kind of rust grit everywhere. Next, we're going to take our bold titanium white, and we're going to go in and paint up all the gauze weapons and anything that should be glowing, minus the eyes, just because I hated alternating brushes a million times. So we're just going to do the weapons and kind of the core glow effect areas, and we're going to hold out on the eyes till the next step. Now for some Vallejo Game Ink Red, and we're going to start establishing those glow spots. Just creeping into the 12-hour mark, and we are looking great. Have pretty much all the colors established for what we want to do, and it's pretty much just left to the glow effects and basing, and then we will have a completed army. And this brings us to tip number 7, which is army selection. Army selection is key. If you're looking to paint up a big force really fast, you need to make sure that it's an army that has few colors and you can make look great quick. All right, now we can come in with our white again, and we can hit the eyes, and the most focus points of the glow that you want to do on the model. For me, the little specks on the Gauss weapons and the eyeballs, which this definitely took up a large portion of the time. But that brings us to tip number 8. Have a plan. I knew that something like this was going to take a long time, and that's why I did my best to plow through as many of the other steps in the first 12 hours as I could. And I think it worked out in my favor. An additional little tag-along tip to this is also limit the steps and write them down and stick to them. And lastly, we're going to grab Dollar Rouney's FW Fluorescent Red ink, and we're going to hit all those glow spots one last time. Alright, now seems like as good a time as any to bring up tip number 9, which is do a test model. I did not do a test model, so do as I say and not as I do, but I knew what I was getting myself into with these. I'd seen a bunch of pictures online, and I was pretty confident that I could pull off a scheme that, I would be happy with and would leave me with a result that looked like I'd wanted. Now, with all those fluorescents out of the way, these models are looking great. But this brings us to tip number 10, which is paint the parts of the model that matter and forget the rest. If you want to go back and add little tiny details to stuff, you can always do that. But when it comes to just getting models on the table, paint the things that matter. You look at 2 things on a model most often: what's in their hands and their face. And if you focus on those details, you're going to have great looking models without having to slog a bunch of time into painting 116 or 17 little pairs of pants or little, brocade pieces of armor. You can always go back and do those steps. But if you're just trying to get it done quick, just hit the important parts and call it good. I am super happy with how these models came out, and with this video coming to a close, I just wanted to add a couple extra tips real quick for just things you should keep in mind when doing a project like this. Tip number 11 is definitely have 2 water cups. Have one for metallics and have one for all your other colors. You don't want those metallic flecks ending up in your colors or in your brush and just ruining your day. It's one of the easiest ways to prevent a silly mistake, and I've never been sorry for doing it. Alright, tip number 12, alternate models. When you are painting up a bunch of troops like an army like this, the easiest way to break that up is to grab a vehicle, grab an HQ or just a different model, and just give yourself a break. It will help in the long run, and it will keep you painting. And lastly, my 13th and final tip for this video is that this is a mental game, okay? Push yourself, and you may be surprised what you can do. I had no idea how long this was going to take, how these were going to come out. I didn't even do a test model, but I just did it. And look what I have now. I have a 100+ model, 2,000 point, ready-to-play army that looks great. I'm happy with it. And hey, I turned out a halfway decent video with it. But with that being said, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more hobby content. Deuces.
Shit.
I need a vacation.